allegiance from Forest Hills High School Junior ROTC.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Forward, march. Telegraph. Oh. Individual left turn, march. Left, left, left. Telegraph. Oh. Reason. Colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary. Colors. Ready. Hut. Individual right turn. March. Left. 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 Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Left.
Okay. Next, I need a motion for approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I know, thank you. Next up is Reverend Kirkpatrick for the John H. Crowder Service Award.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The late John H. Crowder spent more than 30 years serving the children of Union County. As a living tribute to him and his legacy, the Union County Board of Education awards the John H. Crowder Service Award every month to an outstanding high school student who is making a difference in their school and community. Students who receive this award are not only academically successful, but also have an established history of community service. Tonight, we award the John H. Crowder Service Award for February to a senior at Piedmont High School. Abigail Bogert has participated in a variety of activities and community service. She has been a member of the school's student government since the 10th grade and was the Athletic Booster Club liaison her junior year. In those roles, she has decorated for school events, held community service drives, volunteered at open house and organized homecoming and pep rallies, and assisted with Spirit Week. Over the years, Abigail has continually led by example through her participation in the school's Unified Champion School Club, Break the Silence Club, and SOAR. She has worked with special needs students at the school and at other high schools. She's also been involved in organizing Special Olympic events and holding school dances for transition to adult students. Abigail has done a lot to promote mental health awareness and make students feel comfortable and supported, included being a part of the program to sit with students who are alone in their lunchroom. Her service also included reading to elementary students during her sophomore and junior year. Even with all her commitments, Abigail has found time to participate in the recycling program, be a peer tutor, and be a member of the National Honor Society. Last year, during the school's card drive, she collected 120 thank you cards for healthcare workers and delivered them to local hospitals. Board members, please join me in congratulating Abigail Bogert as the February 2023 recipient of the John H. Crowder Service Award.
Next up is Dr. Harris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are pleased to recognize two outstanding employees who have been named the UCPS Influencers for February 2023. This program celebrates the passion, dedication, and hard work of UCPS employees. Each month, our staff members, students, families, and community members nominate a UCPS employee to be recognized for the positive influences they've had on our organization. Each honoree will receive an Amazon gift card. Additionally, Honda of Indian Trail has partnered with UCPS to provide at the dealership a meal for the instructional winner and the entire school staff. Tonight, I am honored to present Shelby Wilmer, a school counselor at Weddington High, and Brian Belk, a plumber at the facilities department. I will now invite the nominators to the podium to read their submissions.
Good evening. I'm John Grexa, and I'm an assistant principal at Weddington High School. Ms. Wilmer, formerly known as Miss Allen, will you please come forward and join me? Ms. Shelby Allen Wilmer inspires the students and parents that she works with daily. On a recent trip to Hawaii with the band, she was a chaperone. Although she was assigned a certain number of students, she was available to help all the students with their social and emotional needs. It was amazing to see how she worked with each of the students that needed her guidance. She kept a calm and professional demeanor in each instance. Ms. Wilmer is a credit to the school counselors, our building, and Union County Public Schools. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Annette Harris, and I'm a science teacher at Piedmont High School. And I am going to share much about my influencer, Brian. I've known Brian Belt for many years as a community stakeholder and parent, and I've taught 2 of his 3 kids so far. I've always admired his tenacity to ensure that his children always do the right thing. Brian leads his family by example. No matter what it is that we have brought to his attention, a leaky water fountain, helping place a wall hook, or opening the door, Brian is 100% in all day, every day. He is an incredible role model for our wrestling team and helps whenever possible. As a member of the school's athletic boosters, Brian is the first to arrive at the concession stand and is among the last to leave, and he's got cleanup duty with me tonight. My students know and love Brian too. When he came into my classroom to help with a link, he found the root cause of the problem. He showed the concepts of claim, evidence, and reasoning for the science nerds without even realizing it. My students nodded in agreement as I use it as an example of how the scientific method and claim evidence reasoning are used in everyday life. I asked our student body president to give me words to describe Brian. She said, "He's just so nice." And I agree. He inspires me to get up in the morning and put my best foot forward in everything I do. Brian is more than an influencer in our school community. He's a mover and a shaker. And as I near the end of my career, I know I can rest easy with people like him walking the halls of our school.
I will now read the UCPS Influencers Proclamation from the Board of Education and Dr. Houlihan. Whereas the Union County Board of Education values the hard work of each employee within the district, whereas performance is an essential part of district operations, whereas Shelby Wilmer and Brian Belk exemplify the performance, dedication, and teamwork essential to the success of the district and its students. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Education for Union County Public Schools, and Dr. Andrew Houlihan, Superintendent, hereby proclaim Shelby Wilmer and Brian Belk as UCPS influencers for the month of February 2023. Congratulations.
Next up is public comments. At every regular meeting of the board, up to 60 minutes has been allotted for public comments. The board will not respond to public comments. However, a member may ask that the chair obtain clarification. Residents, parents, students, and employees of the district will receive priority on the list of speakers. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the opportunity to speak will be considered waived. Only persons signed up may speak. Speakers may not give their time to another person or have someone speak on their behalf. Speakers may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes. The board will not hear in open session complaints about the performance of school personnel issues, confidential student issues. Should a speaker wish to seek information or share items that may not be shared during public comments, members of UCPS cabinet staff are available to address your concerns or provide information. Cabinet staff members are seated at the table to my left. The first speaker is Reagan Shaw.
As adults, we can all agree that if a student or a teacher mocked a transgender student about their genitals, we would discipline them. Where do students learn this behavior, that it's okay to mock a transgender person, even to go so far as to make fun of their actual genitals? Well, Mr. Sides has a post on Facebook that does just that. It mocks the genitals of a person, a transgender person, changing Ryan's privates. That's right, kids learn this despicable behavior from adults. Well, what else would you expect from someone who has posts mocking Mexicans for not speaking perfect English? Remember Lysol, the Mexican word of the day? And there are more. With such unprofessional and mean-spirited views, Mr. Sides does not deserve to be making decisions about our children, especially our queer students. Sadly, let's face it, UCPS Board of Education has a bit of a history with hateful Facebook posts in recent years. The sad irony is that our amazing UCPS counselors provide courses on online bullying. Talk about hypocritical. How are students supposed to take you guys seriously? What hope do they have when even policymakers are part of the problem? And what is the problem? Let's talk about it. A recent study for the Center for Disease Control found that 43% of transgender students have been bullied in U.S. schools versus 18% of their non-transgender peers. That's a difference of 25%. No amount of bullying is acceptable, but that gap between non-transgender students and transgender students is an important marker. It's a failure to educate about queer identities. This failure can have deadly consequences, as we know too well in Union. Students have already lost their lives because bullying was allowed to flourish in UCPS schools. Education is not just reading and writing. Education also includes teaching kids it's not okay to hate people because of our differences. Encouraging students not to strip queer people of their dignity is the purpose of the pride flag. It is not political. It is pedagogical. It absolutely should be part of a UCPS curriculum as it directly addresses this educational gap. Decency towards queer people is an important component of making our schools a safe learning environment and a nonviolent, civilized society once our students graduate UCPS. The pride flag is citizenship education. The lowest possible bar for what a school board provides should be to do no harm. If you continue to threaten the well-being of our queer students, you will be held accountable. I'm Reagan Shaw, and I'm the advocacy representative for the Union County Satellite Branch of PFLAG Charlotte. PFLAG has a network of over 400 chapters across the U.S. We have worked in tandem with Lambda Legal and the ACLU's National Office on Discrimination Lawsuits against school boards. We are watching you and we are taking notes.
Next up is Jen Sanders.
Okay, ready? Good evening, board. I'm Jen Sanders, she, her. I'm a wife, a mother, a daughter, an ally, and a safe person in space. I need you, UCPS, to be a safe space. Racism, bigotry, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and discrimination should not be tolerated by anyone in UCPS, which includes this board being held at a higher level of accountability for your own words and actions have consequences. Oxford University describes a safe place as the following: a place or environment in which a person or category of people can feel confident that they will not be exposed to discrimination, criticism, harassment, or any other emotional or physical harm, end quote. People are social by nature. In a hostile social environment, we become withdrawn and or anxious. In a 2020 study by UCLA Law School, it showed that LGBTQ people are nearly 4 times more likely to experience violence, including rape, sexual assault, aggravated and simple assault. 36% of the LGBTQ youth have physically been threatened, which is the exact reason why my child is not safe using the bathroom in his school. To pretend that these students are not in harm's way would mean that you choose to ignore the cries for help. Pushing a policy that directly affects a particular group of students is not only dangerous, but is also a classic form of discrimination. Well, so let's try something else. As of 1 p.m. today, we have the following. Teacher openings: 23 elementary, 16 middle, and 18 high school, 17 tutor positions, plus another 172 district-wide jobs needed. Teachers are asked to do so much during the past 3 years, and yet they're treated like villains, being told they're groomers and teaching gay in class, and being told that they can't read certain things. They're overworked, overwhelmed, and underappreciated. How about we refocus our collective energies onto supporting and protecting our educators? Let's find a way to work with the county, the state, and federal departments to get the resources needed to retain the current staff and to recruit new ones. Flags, stickers, book bans shouldn't be the least thing on our minds. On a side note, as a community, reach out to your local representatives. Tell them to put education over tourism. It's time to change the calendar legally. Thank you.
Next up, board, I need a motion to approve open session minutes from January 10th and January 27th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I know. Thank you very much. Next is, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next up is Dr. Houlihan's, next is Dr. Houlihan's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board, and good evening, Team UCPS. February is a very busy month. We have a lot of celebrations that we want to start off with recognizing a very special group of our employees, which are our school counselors. It is National School Counseling Week, and I want to give a huge shout out to each of you and let you all know how much we truly value you and your expertise. Our counselors are vital to the well-being of our students, staff, and families, and I really want to say a big thank you to our administrators, our teachers, our parents, our community who are doing all they can to show some love this month to our school counselors. And Dan McCloskey is here, our lead counselor. Dan, you and your team do a great job, so thank you. February is also Love the Bus Month. We are showing a lot of love to our transportation staff and our bus drivers. Throughout this month, our staff will celebrate our drivers, our mechanics, all of our transportation folks with messages, videos on social media pages. You can join in by posting thank you messages on the district's Facebook page. Let's do all that we can to show some love this month to our bus drivers and our transportation staff. It's also Black History Month. This is a time when we pay tribute to African Americans and recognize the many contributions they have made in our country. Many of our schools are celebrating Black History Month through programs, many different literary activities and events. I want to say a big thank you to our schools for all that you're doing this month on that. Today was the UCPS Spelling Bee. Hopefully you've seen that for the first time in 3 years, we have a new winner. Congratulations to 4th grader Imanya Sibu from Indian Trail Elementary. She is about this tall. and packs with a punch. She has made the commitment to repeat as many years as she can. And as a reminder, our spelling bee ranges from grades 3 to 8. So she has quite a long tenure possibly coming her way. It was fabulous. We are very proud of her and wish her well as she moves on to the next phase of competition. And finally, we are having a special programs webinar. If your student is interested in one of our special programs, Ag Tech at Forest Hills, Health Sciences Academy, Monroe High, CATA, Union County Early College, there is a webinar happening this Thursday evening beginning at 6 p.m. Please check the district calendar for details. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Next Stop, Teach UCPS.
And I will continue. So, board members, we are very excited tonight to bring forth to you an item that went to our curriculum committee a few weeks ago we are calling Next Stop, Teach UCPS. This is the first of a kind program that we are asking for your approval on tonight that will really, we believe, initiate and secure a future solution for the teacher pipeline. We know what the data says in terms of teacher vacancies. As of recently, North Carolina ranks 11th amongst states with the highest teacher shortage. And as of February 1st, there were nearly 5,500 teacher vacancies in North Carolina. Our proposed short-term but long-term solution as well is what we're calling Teach UCPS. This is a innovative partnership, and I'm going to speak to that in a minute. And the term I'm using more recently is innovating locally. We cannot rely anymore just on states, our nation. We've got to do all we can as a local community and as a local school system to fill the teacher pipeline. This is going to be an investment in our current employees, in our current students, and a partnership with colleges and universities. And really the ultimate goal is to remove barriers for our kids who are interested in becoming a teacher for UCPS, or our current employees who may have a barrier when it comes to licensure or degree attainment. This is driven by partnerships, and we have two wonderful partners here with us tonight. This has been literally a year in the making. We've really wanted to put forth a lot of hard work in this, and I want to say a big thank you to staff and leadership from both South Piedmont Community College as well as Wingate University. I cannot underscore this enough, how blessed we are to live in a county where your school system, your community college, and a local university partner the way that we do. And I ask that we never take that for granted, because this partnership that we have with many different efforts beyond Teach UCPS, there's a long history and a long-standing amount of pride with that relationship. We work on that all the time. We don't take it for granted. And this is a true partnership between South Piedmont Community College and Wingate University. With us this evening are Dr. Maria Farr from South Piedmont Community College, Dr. Rhett Brown from Wingate University. And at this time, I'm going to ask them to come to the podium and give the board and the public their perspective on what Teach UCPS means for their institution and what this partnership means for our county. So we'll start with Dr. Farr.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it, Dr. Houlihan and the board and members of the audience here and UCPS. I got into education because I had a heart to teach. And I think we heard a number of wonderful stories from individuals that have really made a difference. And so we recognize in this room the value of teaching and what an honorable role that it is. It's a calling. And to be a part of growing a teacher pipeline for our school system is something that, when you see an issue and you work together to provide something, and in this case, a very innovative solution through partnership. And the thing I got to say about our organizations is when you put the student or the teacher or that educational experience at the center of your thinking, anything is possible. And we could not do that without the collaborative spirit that the South Piedmont, Wingate, and Union County Public Schools have. And so I am really grateful to be a part of this, and I thank you.
Good evening. I had the chance earlier today to visit with the Golden Leaf Foundation and its leadership. And one of the things I talked about is my experience, my journey. I was the first in my family to go to college. I was a Pell Grant recipient. It took me a number of colleges. It took me a number of years. It took me the GI Bill to get there. But that experience changed the entire trajectory of my life. And it wasn't that experience. It was teachers that changed my life. From an early age throughout college, that changed the trajectory of my life and my family's life. And what I'm so proud of this partnership today is that's what it's about. It's about teachers. And teachers change lives. And I'm grateful to be a part of this. The last time I was in this room, it was with Representative David Willis in the General Assembly when they were traveling around the state and looking at best practices in North Carolina. And one of the places they held up, based on the cooperation and collaboration that existed, was right here in Union County. And again, I'm so very proud of that. If I am lucky enough to have a long tenure as president of Wingate University, and should I retire on good terms, I hope to write a book one day, and the title of that book will be The Power of Partnership. And that's what we have today, and I can't think of better partners than Dr. Houlihan in Union County Public Schools and Dr. Maria Farr and South Piedmont Community College. It's the creative thinking, it's the new thinking that we engage in that I think makes a difference for our institutions, for our communities, and for the students that we serve, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that. Later on tonight, if you have questions at the end of this, I have to publicly thank our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Jeff Frederick, who is with us tonight. And so if you ask me a really hard question later, I'm going to phone a friend and Provost Jeff, who's going to answer it eloquently for you. We couldn't do this without our academic leadership being fully committed. And so I appreciate it very much, Jeff. Thank you. And the last thing that I would say is we're able to make this happen. You're going to hear some numbers tonight about what this is going to cost students and their families, or how little it's going to cost students and their families. We at Wingate University could not make that happen without the General Assembly in North Carolina and the North Carolina Need-Based Scholarship. It is so important to our work, and so I want to publicly thank the General Assembly for continuing that support. And on the federal level, it is an initiative these days to increase the federal Pell Grant, which goes to the poorest and the neediest students in this country. And there's a national movement, and I think it's the best investment this country can make for education. And so if you have any fluence in that level, let's expand the Pell Grant, because it makes programs like this possible and changes the lives of folks just like me. So thank you so much.
Thank you both. And again, thank you to the staff and the entire leadership team at both South Piedmont and at Wingate University, and to our staff here who have worked tirelessly on this effort. At this time, I'm going to introduce Dr. Susan Rogers. Dr. Rogers will be going through the student pathways and the experiences that students will have as part of this initiative. And then Dr. Harris is going to talk a little bit about the employee experience.
Thank you, Dr. Houlihan. Good evening, board members. I'm here to share the pathway overview with you. And with that said, we'll start with 3 pathways. On the left of the screen, we have the associate's pathway. This is available to all Union County Public School high school students. So beginning in the 9th grade, students complete an aggressive dual enrollment program in partnership with South Piedmont Community College. Students will exit high school not only with the high school diploma, but they will also exit with a teacher preparation associate's degree. Students will continue on to the road to Wingate to earn a bachelor's degree within 2 years of high school graduation. And when you look at the cost there, the associate's degree is a zero tuition cost, and the road to Wingate scholarship is $2,500 per year. We have 2 traditional pathways. The first pathway is the pre-apprentice pathway. This is a CTE, Career and Technical Education Academy, currently at Weddington High School, and we would like to plan to expand to Porter Ridge High School in the fall of 2023 with board approval tonight. Students who commit to CTE Teaching as a Profession 3-course pathway may register as a teacher pre-apprentice in high school. This commitment allows for students to receive free tuition if they continue on as a UCPS apprentice upon graduation. They may be hired by UCPS upon graduation as a teacher assistant, and register with the Department of Labor as an apprentice. Then they may take courses through South Piedmont Community College to complete their associate's degree, and then attend the Road to Wingate University to complete their bachelor's degree within 4 years. The cost associated with this is zero tuition for the associate's degree, and the Road to Wingate scholarship is $2,500 per year. The university pathway is also a CTE academy currently at Weddington High School, and we would like to expand to Porter Ridge High School in the fall of 2023 with board approval tonight. Students complete the CTE program called Teaching as a Profession and then attend a 4-year university of their choice. Students may graduate and receive up to 7 transferable credits at participating universities. As of today, this includes Western Carolina, UNC Wilmington, and A&T State University, and Meredith University. With this, the student would incur that cost. And so that's a brief overview of the 3 pathways to teach UCPS. And next, I would like to share with you the student experience opportunities. So traditional pathway opportunities for students. Students may expand apprenticeship, internship, and field experiences by participating in relevant UCPS professional development sessions. This may include things like Canvas Rockstars, which is our learning management system, classroom management professional development, and key or core subject area professional development. Students may also expand their apprenticeship and internship and field experiences by, we can click again, sorry, by participating in relevant summer programs. So we do offer summer programming every summer, and these students can work as paid tutors during summer program months. They can also participate in the professional development that goes along with summer programming and planning sessions for summer programming. And also, students participating in the CTE internship programs within Union County Public Schools participate in lesson planning with staff. They attend planning meetings on teacher work days, and they have opportunities to teach small or whole group lessons. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Harris to talk about the teacher assistant to teacher pathway.
Thank you very much. We currently have a TA to teacher pathway that requires a current TA to have an associate's degree to get entry into that program with Wingate. This pathway allows a TA that does not have an associate's degree to gain entry into SPCC and then move on to Wingate University, which is awesome. We currently have 550 TAs, so that opens up a lot of different pathways and opportunities for those TAs. This is just phase 1. Phase 2 opens up opportunities for those individuals that have licensure concerns, alternate licensures, and maybe even our tutors. So those are the different pathways that we can offer.
So as we kind of close out this presentation, I think there are several opportunities that the board and our staff really need to, and our community needs to think through. One of the pieces of advice that our high school student advisory has given to me pretty regularly when asked about their interest in becoming a teacher, as a number one incentive for them is they want to go to school debt free. And I think it is amazing to see the partnership between South Piedmont and Wingate. I don't know of another relationship like that in the state where you have such a heavily discounted tuition. $2,500 to go to college per year and to a private university is unheard of. We really want to try to figure out ways that we can provide scholarships for our students, much like your North Carolina Teaching Fellows program does, where even though it's $2,500 per year, either through an investment that UCPS makes, that our local partners make, or possibly municipalities, the ability to offer that for free so that students do not have to incur even a $2,500 debt would be a huge investment and a huge next step for all of us. So for us locally, when we get into our budget season, we will be talking with the board about line items possibly being placed in our budget request for the coming school year's budget, and something that we can build upon, almost like an endowment from this year moving forward for a small cohort of kids that may need that incentive or that tuition break. The second piece that I will be doing is meeting with local partners to determine if there is investment opportunities that they want to make in this program as a way to mutually benefit both them from a partnership standpoint and future teachers. And then finally, we have had several municipalities talk about this concept, which I've never really seen anywhere, where a local municipality might want to provide scholarships to children who might want to take this opportunity at both South Piedmont and Wingate, and then in return be placed back into that municipality as an idea as a teacher. And so there are three really big ways we're thinking of possible investment that don't have to be solved today, but I wanted the board and the public to know that is top of mind to try to provide further incentive and reason for children to want to consider going into teaching. If we are able to do this, and I really think that is going to be a strong possibility, we would have a very similar employee commitment like other programs, where you would return back to Union County Public Schools and work for us in a Title I school for a minimum of 3 years or a non-Title I for 4 as a way to quote unquote pay back that scholarship and service. And so if you're interested, for our students or families, we're going to take a look at the program of studies, contact your counselor. For our teacher assistants, we have contact information both in HR and also at Wingate. This is really going to be important for us that we are about to hit the high school registration period. So once this concludes tonight, we will begin marketing this opportunity to our current 8th graders who will be entering 9th grade who may be interested. So that concludes this presentation. We're happy to answer any questions or comments. And again, thank you to the team. And we're very, very excited about the future of teaching in UCPS. Thank you.
It is wonderful.
Well, if there's no questions, I make a motion that we approve Next Stop Teach UCPS.
So because it came out of curriculum, so no second is required. Does anyone have any discussion?
Do we have an age requirement on our teachers? For minimum? If they're getting out at,
Sorry, I believe it's 20 years old.
Okay.
If there are students that are beyond 9th grade and interested in this, how do we have a path for that as well?
That path would be the apprenticeship path that is currently offered at Weddington High School in Porter Ridge. That is an option for any child who might want to take advantage of that kind of a CTE academy in high school. That approach, we have been asked by our high school principals, how quickly can we expand that academy to all of our high schools so that we don't have to worry about students traveling from one school to the next. And there are some barriers with that, especially like finding the teacher. Those are college level courses that require a master's degree. And so we really, and that's kind of through Brian Davis's shop, that is a goal of ours, is to expand beyond two high schools. But based on our current student interest data, those are the 2 schools that have said we have the majority of kids who want to go into teaching as a profession.
Madam Chair, this reminds me of when our daughter Catherine was had to come home from Carolina for a while, and we went to South Piedmont where she thought it was going to be easy, and we were in the finance office, and we did all the chit chat, and then I said, "Okay, what's the damage?" And when they told the price, I said to my wife, "Hurry up and write that check before they change their mind." And so when you look at what the cost to benefit ratio from this, I want to commend you, Dr. Houlihan, and these great partners for creating such pathways for our students here. I'm proud to be in a county that has such collaborative cooperation, and know that we are immensely grateful at what you offer, because again, one of our children have the benefit of being a South Piedmont grad as well as a Carolina grad, and she has repented that community college is easy.
It's an exciting for our teachers, for our students, and a pathway to go to teaching without a lot of debt.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Dr. Houlihan. All right. I know you mentioned, Dr. Houlihan, about partnerships. Are you all willing to provide presentations to different community groups so that they can hopefully invest in what we are doing to encourage maybe their congregations, through civic organizations, to really make this, a movement here in Union County? Because I think it's important, especially our students who would like to go and teach, like to go into teaching, and the financial part is a challenge. And we want them to come out of poverty, but we don't want them to go back into poverty, because it can become very expensive to live after you have received, your credentials and what have you. And we want them to stay in our county. And so I think that if we could look at some type of way of really encouraging, especially our Black and brown students, of the importance of going into education, especially if we're going to have to serve in Title I schools. And we have a large percentage of Black and brown students who need to see individuals who look like them that have made it, to help empower them. So I'm excited about this opportunity. In whatever way I can assist, we can assist in District 1 through community, through churches. Please let us know, because we want to support this initiative.
Thank you. The short answer to your question is absolutely. As soon as this program is approved, we're going to begin marketing across the county, across all of our schools, across our municipalities, town councils, local government. But if there are groups, church groups, Rotaries, Kiwanis, other kinds of groups that the community wants us to point to, that you all can help us identify, please let Ms. Stalbert and I know, and we will create a calendar moving forward that both the board could help present, our staff can present, our staff and leadership from our two institutions can present. But really what we're going to be asking is for our community to come together to rally behind a critical need that we have, because we all will benefit as a community once we have a highly effective teacher in every classroom.
Is there any way we could have a video made so that the kids can see it and what the programs are and put it up and talk?
She says it's in the works, so I'll
It
take
is.
her word.
Thank you. Sorry. What?
Me.
Okay.
I'd like to piggyback off of what Reverend Packard said, that same thing with, Latin American students, like a way to reach out to like certain, I know there's communities in Union County with a high population of Latin American students, and especially with our DLI programs going forward. Like, I know that's something that we've talked about in curriculum, where there's, we don't have the DLI program in all our elementary schools. And that's something that maybe we can look into to help expand that even further with our DLI, because, that's such an important thing to have like a dual language, whatever that is. But just piggybacking off of what he said. So, but I think this is a great program. My niece is going to be a teacher, so she's studying, and so I get it.
And I think, Madam Chair, to Reverend Kirkpatrick's point, which is just absolutely awesome, by the way, I think we may have a format already in place, the one that we utilize for the bonds. So we may want to take a look at that format. We pray that the receptivity is greater. But
So I'm
yeah,
excited to see what it looks like.
I think we already have a game plan for Reverend Kirkpatrick's idea.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to commend staff and both Wingate and SPCC on this effort to fill a real need. And this has probably already been addressed, but if you get to the point, hopefully soon, where we're looking for contributions from private sector, I don't know if it's been considered to work in unison with the Education Foundation or some vehicle so that the contributions would be tax deductible.
That is on my list. Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you to Wingate and SBCC. That's a great value. You mentioned earlier too, I guess you're going to start promoting this to 8th grade. Can we start earlier, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th?
We're doing a lot of work with our middle school students on career readiness and career pathways. I think the timing is in the sweet spot right now for 8th grade because you're about to begin the registration process. We have families that will be coming to our high schools in the next few months to look at high school registration night. So the short answer to your question is absolutely. I mean, we will start this marketing effort much earlier than 8th grade. But for where we are right now, 8th grade is going to be the focus because of the timing.
Anyone else? Thank you so much for coming. It was wonderful to have you here, and it's great. It's going to be a great program for our kids and for our communities. So it's really great. Thank you so much. So we've had a motion. We don't need a second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
9-0. Thank you. I thought she determined from. Whoop. Next up, the fiscal year 22 audit report. Woohoo!
Good evening, board. Last month, I did include the financial statements in your packet so you could have time to review. This evening, we have our audit firm and Mr. Adam Shapirik, who's here to present our annual act. It's the act for annual comprehensive financial report. So that's the additional sections with statistical information about our county and our district. So.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, board members. Dr. Houlihan. I know I've heard two people whisper that the meeting is moving right along, so I will not change that. Not because I don't like standing up here and talking, but because the statements actually this year are fairly straightforward. And that seems odd to say while looking at 120 pages of a PDF that includes countless schedules. But as always, I like to try to point out the most important pages, the 10 most important pages within these statements. So again, you've all received the core statements a month ago and now have the full ACFR, the annual comprehensive income or annual comprehensive financial report in front of you. It starts out with a transmittal letter, just a letter about the future of the school system, about some of the information as far as economic conditions, initiatives that are undertaken. I would have you skip all that and turn to actual page 1, past all the Roman numerals to page 1. This is the beginning of the actual audited report. Page 1 is the opinion letter. So we're hired as an audit firm to really just go over your records and tell you that the financial statements, the financial status of the school system is accurate. Not necessarily whether it's good or bad, but just that it's accurate. So that's our job is to, again, provide an opinion. And this letter states that in our opinion, we believe these financial statements are accurate. The first paragraph of this letter is the opinion paragraph. Again, we believe that this set of financial statements accurately reflects the net position and the fund balance and the changes of those for the year ended June 30, 2022. Now, a lot of these statements center around net position, and a lot of your returning board members, you know that the net position includes the fixed assets, the pension plan, the health retirement benefits. So when you read through these, take note and focus on fund balance. That's the number we care about. That is what is available for appropriating. And on page 14, Exhibit 3 is the balance sheet for your governmental funds. And this provides all of your governmental fund balance. This is, again, a balance sheet showing your assets minus your liabilities and what you have remaining. The first column on this exhibit is your general fund. This is the bulk of your local revenue, your county revenue. At the bottom of that first column, you can see that your total fund balance is $13,493,000. Of that 13.5 million, 3 million is already planned to be spent in the 2022-2023 fiscal budget. So when you look at that 13 million, the breakdown of the various fund balances is 2,999,000 assigned. Again, that is assigned for the budget. You've already created a budget in 22-23 that plans on using $3 million of fund balance, leaving you with 10.4 million available for appropriation. That is the unassigned fund balance. That 13.5 million is an increase of $513,000. The part where I said this was pretty straightforward, anytime your fund balance only changes by $500,000, that's a break even. When you're talking about $111 million from the county changing by 500,000, again, that's as close to break even as anybody could have guessed at the beginning of the year. If you guys could change fund balance up or down by $500,000 every year, all these meetings would go quick, at least for my portion. Problem is that's not always the case. Your $13 million of fund balance, I work with districts of similar size that have twice as much fund balance. So your goal and your challenge every year is trying to maintain as little fund balance as possible, but yet providing all of the necessary services. The last 5 to 8 years has been spent managing that small amount of fund balance. And that fund balance actually got down to just under $1 million a couple of years ago. You actually added 10 million last year, 500,000 this year. So again, straightforward in the fact that you only added 500,000, but a continuous, again, challenge is that $10 million of fund balance. While it seems like a lot of money, $10 million in savings when you're talking about a budget of nearly $450, $500 million is just, again, not a large fund balance for your relative size. That being said, you also have some fund balance in the other special revenue fund. This is your other local sources. That fund provides about $16 million of revenue each year, and it currently has 11.7 million of fund balance. So when you look at your total fund balance, you really can look at those two together, but you have to remember the other special revenue fund has some restricted revenue sources, Medicaid being the biggest one. So that 11.7 million is an increase of $2 million from last year. That $2 million can be summed up in two reasons. You received a lot of Medicaid revenue this year that was not spent and is carried over and is restricted. It's part of that $5.4 million of restricted fund balance in that section. So of that 11.7 million, $5 million has to be spent on certain programs, the biggest one being Medicaid. The other reason for the $2 million increase, you were able to charge child nutrition indirect costs this year for the first time in either a year or maybe two. Child nutrition, which we'll see later on, had a great year, but that was a great year for everybody statewide. And again, we'll go over that. So those two revenue sources really contributed to that $2 million increase in fund balance. And I can guarantee you that you'll be sending a lot of that money back to child nutrition this year as the free, every child eating for free comes to an end because of COVID. You're going back to charging for meals. And after eating for free for 2.5 years, it's going to be difficult getting students back into the custom of paying. And any meal served but not paid for by the student has to be paid for by the local funds. So I expect to see some large payments going back to child nutrition in the other direction in the form of lost revenue from food sales. You also have $2 million in capital outlay and $4.8 million at the individual school level. Those are the individual school accounts across your 50 schools. That went up $496,000 this year, again, as activities returned and fundraisers returned. So your total fund balance across all governmental funds, $32 million. Are there any questions about this balance sheet? Again, I think that's probably the main reason I come every year is to go over those numbers. And again, really straightforward with the 2.5 million total added in local funding in fund balance. If you turn a couple pages, page 16, this is Exhibit 4. this is the income statement for those same funds, and you can see those changes in fund balance at the bottom of each of these columns. You can also see the total revenues that each fund provides. $112 million from general fund, $264 million from the state public school fund. One to point out here is your federal grants fund, $40.6 million. Pre-COVID 2019, that was $16 million. You received an exorbitant amount of COVID funds that will eventually expire, and which will be another challenge in the future for which services are being provided with those federal funds that you may want to continue. There is going to be an extra cost going forward of teaching kids in a world of COVID, in a world of increased technology. And so, again, another challenge on those local funding sources. So when you look at 2019 pre-pandemic, $16 million of federal grants funds jumping to $40.6 million, that's a significant funding source this year that you didn't have 3 years ago. Other special revenue, again, $16 million. Capital outlay fund, mostly funded by the county for construction. There was $19 million flowing through that account, that fund this year, and then $8 million of revenue collected at the individual schools. And you can see that $461 million budget. So again, looking at 10, or maybe if you want to count the two fund balances, both the general and the other special revenue, the 10 million of other special revenue, only 5 of it really being available, you're looking at 15 million of fund balance available to cover swings in a $460 million annual budget. No, if you put it down into terms of, what an average $50,000 household has in savings, it's $1,000 in the savings account. I mean, that's when you really look at it in personal terms. Page 22 is the next page I wanted to go over, Exhibit 7. So those were your governmental funds. You also have 2 business type funds, the School Food Service Fund and the After School Program. The one I want to center on is the Child Nutrition, the School Food Service Fund. So again, debt position versus fund balance. For these governmental funds, or for these business type funds, they're one and the same. We have to actually record the liabilities for the pension plan. The value, the net value of your kitchen equipment, it's directly recorded here as an asset. So instead of looking at a negative $5 million net position that doesn't give any indication of the true financial health of the fund, I look at that top number, cash and cash equivalents. $8 million of cash in the bank compared to $2.8 million a year ago. It went up $5.2 million in 1 year. This is, again, in line with every school system across the state as the kids return to full-time in-person learning, every kid eating for free, and a high reimbursement rate from the federal government, on top of getting a little bit of supply chain assistance money and some other little pots of federal USDA money. Revenue in that fund from the federal government totaled $20.5 million. And you can see that on page 23, Exhibit 8. This is the income statement for those 2 business type funds. Normally, pre-pandemic, you have food sales of about 6.6 million and federal reimbursements about 7.9. This year, you had $20.5 million of federal reimbursements. That's a net change of $8.3 million when you look at both food sales and federal reimbursements. That equated to the increase in cash. This year, districts used the increase in revenue as a way to really pad back losses from the last 2 years of COVID, and also to save up money for the fact that inflation is real. The cost of salaries in that fund are going to go up, and the pay rate from students is going to go down. So there are, again, challenges in that fund going forward. Being able to add $5.2 million to address those challenges, I think absolutely necessary, and put you in a much better position to do that. And that's it. Those are your funds. That's your fund balance, and your cash and child nutrition. Those are the most important pages. There are pages of footnotes, other schedules, budget versus actual, that show no budget violations. There's more detailed schedules for your general fund in these back schedules. But if you would actually turn all the way to page 99, you get to the second part of our audit. Our audit is an audit of the financial statements as well as an audit of compliance. So page 99 starts 3 letters, 1 over internal controls, 1 over state compliance, and 1 over federal compliance. These 3, as well as the financial opinion letter at the very front, are considered clean, unmodified opinions. We noted no deficiencies in internal controls. We noted no violations of state compliance and no violations of federal compliance for the programs that we audited as major this year. Those programs were the Child Nutrition Fund and your 2 big COVID pots of money. Those are considered high-risk funds. They have to be audited every year. And then on the state side, we audited the State Public School Fund. That being so large, that has to be audited for compliance every year as well. So those made up your major programs. And again, we noted no question calls, violations, or findings with those pots of money. The other thing to point out, last year on page 109, we did have a finding related to salary allotments and salary exceptions that crossed over into the next year that had to be paid back, just an operational type finding. That was corrected as noted on page 109 in the current year and did not repeat in the 2022 year. And then one last thing I want to point out, page 111, the COVID funds, the Education Stabilization Fund, it's made up of the list of programs on that first half of the page. You can see that the total Education Stabilization Fund was $26.9 million in the current year. That's the federal awards, again, set to expire 2023, 2024, probably extended or reworked and come back to you in a different way, but no guarantees. And really, at some point, those will expire. And again, will provide a challenge, I think, for local funding and state funding in the future. Any questions about any of it? That's it. That's as quick as I can go. If not, I appreciate your time tonight.
Just so people out there, how do we get a larger fund balance? Because we use state funds and federal funds, and those have to be used for certain things. So it's all local, and we never have anything.
So if we look at your federal funds, and again, going back to pre-pandemic, $17 million, that is mostly for Title I and EC.
Right.
Those are the big chunks there. Let's just call that Title I and EC. Those have to be spent a certain way.
Right.
After that, you have your state funds.
Right.
The amount that you get from your state funds is based on the demographics of the community. So being a fairly wealthy district in the eyes of North Carolina, your ratio of state funds to your size is lower. So you actually, when you look at your state funding of $260 million compared to local funds of 111, that's a 1 to 3 ratio or 1 to 2 ratio that other districts that have different demographics will have much higher state funding and not need as much local funds. So anytime there is a change in teacher salary or retirement cost, the state will cover their portions of it. A lot of those come through in position allotments, and it doesn't matter whether it's a $40,000 position or a $60,000 position, the state will pay for it. But if you have a teacher that's being paid locally from your dollars and the average salary goes from 40 to 60, that's $20,000 that you have to come up with in your local budget. And so there's always a delay between mandates down from the state and when the county provides the funding. Basically, when you start, really crying that we don't have enough money to pay for all the things, even the bare minimum teachers, and that's typical. And the better relationship that you can have with the county, I think the shorter that timeline from when they react from the state mandates, the shorter you can get that window, then you can operate on a lower fund balance. If their reactions match the state changes, but again, district with 40,000 kids, it's just not going to be that seamless. So there will be mandates, and even just looking at the change in the retirement rate. The retirement rate used to be 9%. Now we're up into over 20, 24 and a half. Right. Continued, and salaries keep going up. So you're paying a higher percentage on more salaries. It's a continuous, expensive contribution. That's part of why they wanted you to add these things into your statements to begin with, the pension and health care plan. They're large numbers. They're not your liability. They're the state's liabilities, but you still have to pay the annual expense to fund those plans. And that you can see a portion of that on page 56. Page 56 and page 54. So there's the pension plan and the post-employment health benefit plan, the health benefits for retirees. Those two contributions this year for the pension plan, your contribution was $40 million, whereas 10 years ago it was $15 million. Your contribution for the health retirement piece of it this year was $15 million, whereas 10 years ago it was $9.8 million. So again, in 10 years, nearly tripled or at least doubled in your requirement to pay into those plans to fund all of those benefits. Nope.
I heard you mention that you audit other schools that have twice as high of a fund balance, but I didn't hear you say that that was the recommended. And then I also heard you say that our job is really to make sure that we're getting the most benefits, paying out for the most benefits while still retaining some to be a little fiscally responsible, right? Fiscally responsible. So are we kind of in the ideal spot, or do you recommend having a higher fund balance for our size district?
Again, the job is to let you know that the financial statements are accurate. But when you compare fund balance, you have districts that are very similar size, some that have similar demographics, but then some that don't. There is no recommended number. There is actually a blog post that came out this year about this rule of 7%. The counties and cities, they look at a recommended fund balance being 7% of your annual budget. It doesn't really apply to school systems because a lot of your budget is state funded and you don't carry fund balance in those programs, in those funds. You actually have to carry all of your fund balance in your local fund. So if you were just looking at 7% of your local fund, that's $7 million. Again, that doesn't apply when your demographics make you at that 1 to 2.5 local fund level. Because again, those changes that happen from state mandates affect you harder on your local fund than other districts that are considered low wealth or have higher funding sources from the state, from DPI. So I can't say necessarily that there's a recommended number. I really look at how you're using your fund balance compared to how much you have. So this year is a great example. $500,000 added, $10 million in fund balance. You could do that all year or year after year, even if you went to using 500,000. But that's just not how budgets work. In fact, in the last few years, you've used vast amounts of fund balance just to buy computers. Just to change out one wave of your computers, it will cost you $10 million. That's $10 million of fund balance used in 1 year. So if you look back over your history on how much fund balance you're capable of using versus how much you have, then you have very little. So if we look at it in a vacuum for this year, $10 million is enough. But if you look back in recent history, there were years that you used nearly $10 million of fund balance. And in that case, you only have 1 year of savings available. So again, it's all with $10 million, you're just 1 to 2 expensive decisions away from using or losing all of that fund balance. And again, that's whether it be supplements, computers. I mean, there's very few decisions that $10 million can afford to buy you. Yep.
Other questions, board members? Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks. And thank you, Shauna. Seriously, yes. Sorry. Next is policies and administrative guidelines for review.
Good evening, members of the board. You have 4 policies here for your review, as well as a new administrative guideline on seclusion and restraint. And I can try and answer any questions that any of you might have on those. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is comments from board members.
Greetings, Madam Chair. Just want to start out by saying this is Black History Month, and a lot of folks going to be watching the Super Bowl, and they're celebrating and talking about that this is the first Super Bowl with both teams having 2 Black starting quarterbacks, and that is definitely a worthwhile endeavor. But we want to thank Dr. Houlihan and Team UCPS for being a school that is ensured its ability to process and be a good contributor toward Black History Month. And we just want to celebrate that and just celebrate all of our UCPS team during this month.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Oh, Mr. Sides?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to direct my comments towards the fine educators of UCPS. Last year in our budget, this board and in partnership with the Education Foundation developed a scholarship program for our educators that would like to go on to national board certification, of which I just discovered tonight the fee was higher than I thought it was. But this program would pay the fee for the application into the program, which I understand is very rigorous. And the few educators I've talked to that have national board certification said it was the best thing they ever did for their professional growth, as well as for educators renewing their certification. We have these funds available, and the best thing about it is after all the sweat and work is done, you'll receive from the state of North Carolina a 12% salary boost for your remaining time. So I would like to encourage tonight, particularly because as I understand it, the application period ends at the end of February. And that would work through, and then the candidates would graduate, if you will, in December of 2023. I would encourage any of you that have an interest in National Board certification to seek out your principal or one of your colleagues that might already have the certification to discuss the demands and requirements and see if this is the right thing for you in your professional growth, because I'd sure like to see as many UCPS educators get that 12% pay boost as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam
Almost
Chair.
for-
Oh, go ahead, Reverend Bench.
No, you may be saying what I'm saying, and if you don't, I'll come back.
Okay. Maybe so. I don't know. It's just an announcement. I will go ahead and give it for Black History Month. At the main library, they're having the African American Read-In, which is from 3 to 5, Sunday, February the 26th. And it will be celebrating African American children's literature with readings from our community leaders and educators. And every child who attends will leave with a book from an African American author. So there's a lot of other events throughout Monroe, Marshall, and Wingate that are going on to celebrate Black History Month. But this one, hopefully we will get as many of our young people to attend at the library on February the 26th at 3 o'clock until 5 o'clock.
Madam Chair, let me go ahead and say that I was informed tonight, and I probably would have been informed a little later tonight, but that our very own Monroe High School head football coach, Johnny Sal, has been selected to be the head coach for the North Carolina side of the Shrine Bowl coming up. So I believe that is just an absolute fantastic celebration to be had. I've been to the Shrine Bowl, and it's a big, huge event. And to have one of Union County's own, I just believe that's just fantastic. So I want to give a big shout out to Coach Johnny Sal, Monroe High School.
Anything else? No. How about announcements from board members? I have a policy committee on the 21st at 8 a.m. via Zoom.
The Strategic Planning, Technology, and Transportation Committee is scheduled to meet February 22nd at 8 a.m., and that will be virtual.
Finance on the 28th, 8 p.m., right, Shauna? Is it 8 p.m. or 9? 8 a.m., also virtual. Did I say p.m.? Oh, I meant a.m.
Facilities is meeting February 22nd at 9 a.m. and then curriculum will be at 10 a.m. on February 22nd, all via Zoom.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask for an adjournment for the open session, but board members, we need to go into closed session after this. So if you can follow me into the other room, that would be great. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.